Good morning, students. So, today we'll see the next part of the chapter, that is biodiversity and conservation, that is loss of biodiversity. This loss of biodiversity I've already explained in the previous class, but still once again I'll explain you the loss of biodiversity in this class also. Okay, so this loss of biodiversity, according to this IUCN, that is International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, they had prepared a red list in the year 2004. Okay, and they had documented the extinction of various species of plants as well as animals. Okay, this IUCN red list, which was prepared in 2004, says that is 784 species, that is including 338 vertebrates, 359 invertebrates and 87 plants, totally 784 species, including both plants as well as animals, were extinct. Okay, that is in the last 500, this occurred in the last 500 years. Okay, then which were the animals which became extinct? Okay, that is the recent extinction include, first one was a dodo, which is the flightless bird, which is known as Meritius. Then quagga, which is not which was found in Africa, that is it is a zebra species. Then here stellar sea cow, which was found in Russia, right? And 3 species of tiger, subspecies of tiger like your Bali, Javan, Casparian, then thylacine, which was found in Australia. Okay, right. Then the pictures of these animals have been given here. Okay, this above you can see the pictures of these animals also. Then, so next, that is in detail, the you can see the diagram of dodo, which is a flightless bird. Okay, so this dodo, that is 27 species disappeared in the last 20 years, right? Then next one is about the that is here which looks like zebra species, quagga, right? So more than at present more than 15,500 species worldwide are facing the threat of extinction. Not this all I am telling, in general. Here also in dodo, in general I am saying, that is in the last 20 years 27 species disappeared. At present more than 15,500 species are facing the threat of extinction. Then so thylacine, you can see Stela sea cow, that is on the left side of the slide. They have shown you the diagram of that. Here presently 12% of all the bird species are facing extinction, threat of extinction, means they will disappear. Okay, the reasons may be whatever, that is all the due to hunting or due to mobile towers and all those things. There are many more reasons for these birds to become extinct. Okay, so presently 12% of all the birds species, then 23% of all the mammals species, then 32% of the amphibians species, then 31% of all the gymnosperm species all over the world. Now I am not talking only of the India, but all over the world they are going to face the threat of extinction. Means due to one or the other reasons these are becoming extinct. Okay, then about next is about the scenario. You can see that is not only the amphibians, gymnosperms, the ecologists have warned that if the present trend, whatever the extinction trend is there of the animals or the plants, if it continues, what will happen is nearly half of all the species which are present on the earth might become extinct within the next 100 years. If the destruction or the causes for the extinction of these animals as well as the plants go on going as it is, as the rate it is, as whatever the rate is there now, the rate of getting extinct, if it continues, then we can say that, that is the ecologists say that here nearly half of all the species which are present on the earth may become extinct in the near upcoming 100 years. So we have to think and then act now. Okay, so here they have given the diagram of three subspecies of tiger, that is Bali and Javan and Caspian tiger. You can say it. Okay, then this is all regarding the loss of biodiversity, that is plants as well as animals. Okay, then here what are the impacts of this loss of biodiversity? You may ask me. Okay, that is when you are losing the biodiversity on the earth, the impacts will also be very deadly. Okay, very dangerous. Okay, so impacts are, there is decline in the plant production. Then you can say environmental disturbances are going to occur, such as droughts and increased variability in the ecosystem processes such as plant productivity, water use and pest and disease cycles. So they are all going, there will totally, you can say, that is, if there is loss of biodiversity, that is going to create imbalance in the nature. Then coming to the next part is the what may be the causes of loss of biodiversity. You have seen there was loss of diversity and your red list was prepared in the 2004, everything is fine. But what may be the reasons for the loss of biodiversity then? The reasons for biodiversity, the causes, the reason for the loss of biodiversity or the causes of biodiversity loss. Okay, so mainly what you can say is the loss of biodiversity is mainly due to human activities. Human beings are 80% responsible, 80 or 90% you can say, responsible for the depletion of biodiversity or the loss of biodiversity for its own self. Okay, then there are four major causes which are responsible for loss of biodiversity, or you can call them as the evil quadrant. Quadrant means four. The evil quadrant which are responsible for the loss of biodiversity. Then which are those? Here with the help of a box diagram they have shown you the four different evil quadrants, or the four different reasons or the four different causes for the loss of biodiversity. The first one is habitat loss and fragmentation. Then the second one is about the overexploitation. Then third one is alien species invasion, and the fourth one is co-extension. Okay, so here these are the four main reasons for the loss of biodiversity. Okay, and they have mentioned it as evil quadrant. So first one is regarding the habitat loss and fragmentation, which we are going to see in detail. So here this habitat loss means you are going to destruct, you are going to destroy the habitat because of our own need. That is, human beings will destroy the, especially the mankind will destruct the habitat for unwanted human activities like urbanization, farming, deforestation, mining, etc. Okay, then you might have heard in the news also, that is your many of the forest has been cut. Okay, right, it is all because of the selfishness or due to the more greediness of the man to get more civilized, right? So here that is habitat loss, it is main, that is habitat loss and fragmentation, it is a main reason for the loss of biodiversity. The best example for this is your destruction of tropical rainforest. Okay, that is whatever the rainforest was there, now the loss has taken place from 14% to 6%. Okay, right, that is what these forests, that is tropical rainforest or your Amazons. Okay, right, there were thousands of acres of the rainforest earlier. Okay, or you can say these rainforest, once they have covered more than 40% of the earth's land surface. But now due to this that is destruction by the man, now they occupy not more than 6% of the land area. Okay, so you can think how adverse the destruction may be. Okay, so here that is the Amazon rainforest, which are called as the lungs of the planet. Okay, so they consist of millions of species of plants, and nowadays they are being cut and cleared for cultivating crop plants. For example, that is soybean. Okay, so the human beings are going to cut the million species of plants which once covered the Amazon rainforest only for cultivating the crop plants like soybean or for conversion to grassland for grazing cattle. Okay, so here as the slide shows, that is here how on the left side, that is deforestation of Amazon. The Amazon was a thick forest which was considered as the lungs of the planet once. Now also it is considered, but still the depletion is taking place, deforestation of Amazon is taking place, and you can see a patch of barren land, or the patch of that is decut forest. You can see here deforestation has taken place, a patch. Okay, and it is meant for either cultivating the soybean or for growing the grass for grazing of cattle. Okay, so this whatever the degradation is taking place, that is degradation of many habitats, okay, by that is degradation of many habitats by pollution also is going to affect the survival of many species, or you can say this fragmentation, okay, is badly going to affect the animals which require large territories and migratory animals. That is, many animals are there who do not that is they do not live in the confined area. What they do is they go on roaming here and there, and if you are going to cut the habitats, if you are going to fragment them, if you are going to divide that habitat into that is large area into different fragments, that is going to affect the animals. Okay, especially the animals who require larger territories, larger area, or the animals who often migrate. For such animals, it is a problematic condition. Okay, so then when large habitats are broken into smaller fragments due to various human activities, here many of the mammals and birds which require larger territories or the larger space, okay, they are going to be badly affected, and thereby when they are badly affected, that will reflect in decrease in their population, or you can say they will become extinct. Or sometimes if we are going to do habitat loss or fragmentation, many of the animals are going to turn towards the cities or the towns, okay, right, and there they may cause destructions or harm to the human beings also. You might have seen in the newspaper many a times a cheetah has come in the that is from the forest into the villages. Elephants might have come, or many of the wild animals might have come. You might have read in the newspaper. That is all because of the greediness of the human beings. The actual habitat, the forest of these animals have been destructed by the man, and that has led for the migration of these animals towards the villages or the cities. Okay, so this is one of the great cause, or the larger cause for the loss of biodiversity. Okay, then next one is about the over exploitation. Okay, so over exploitation, here in over exploitation, the name itself indicates over exploitation means what. Okay, so here when the usually when needs turn to greed, that will lead to over exploitation of natural resources. Okay, natural resources are limited on earth, okay, and they are meant for the that is for fulfilling the need of the human beings and the other organisms on the earth. But when the need of human beings, when it turns to greed, that may lead to the over exploitation of natural resources. Okay, so then many species extinctions has occurred in last that is 500 years, like here steeler sea cow, then passenger pigeon. Here they have given the diagram of the pictures showing your passenger pigeon as well as the steeler sea cow. Okay, they are extinct due to over exploitation. Okay, over exploitation especially by the man. And presently many marine fishes population all over the world, as they are harvested more and more, that is you can say over harvesting, so they have become endangered. Okay, endangered, that is especially that is if you go on catching the fishes often and often, marine fishes, there that is many that is population, their population size is affected, and they become endangered, which are more commercially important species. So this is one of the reason for loss of biodiversity. Then next one is about the alien species invasion. Okay, the very beautifully they have shown that is in the that is animated cartoon diagram, not animated, that is cartoon representation of the alien species invasion. So in when alien species, alien means foreign species, it is the species from another area, they are not native. Okay, just like your aliens which may come from the other solar system to our earth. You might have seen in the film Koi Mil Gaya, there the alien will be there which will be usually taking the sunlight, you might have seen. Okay, like that here aliens means the organisms which have come from other that is other area. Okay, when alien species are introduced unintentionally, sometimes they are going to turn dominating and they will dominate the indigenous species. Okay, local species will get affected, that is alien species will cause the decline and extinction of the indigenous species. That is, suppose a area is there, a pond is there, and the pond is containing many indigenous means native fishes, and suppose you bring a xyz fish from another pond or another area and put into that same pond, that time that foreign whatever you are introduced, that is called as alien species. Now that alien species, here you can see this green color fish in the diagram is an alien fish which is brought introduced new, and these yellow color fishes which are there, wooden color fishes, those are all indigenous species. Okay, what happens is when you introduce an alien species into a community unintentionally, accidentally, sometimes it may happen, and that alien species, if it turns dominating over the indigenous species, that may cause the loss of or extinction of indigenous species. Okay, right, is it clear here? Indigenous species may get lost. Here examples of the, you can best that is understand by seeing the examples of that is Nile perch. This Nile perch fish, the two men are holding this Nile perch fish. Okay, it was introduced in the Lake Victoria of East Africa. In East Africa, you are going to find a lake known as Lake Victoria, and that when this Nile perch fish was introduced into the Victoria Lake, that led, okay, extinction of more than 200 different species of cichlid fish in the lake. So these are the colorful fishes what you are seeing, these are the cichlid fishes. These cichlid fishes, okay, they become extinct because of introduction of this Nile perch fish. Okay, right, that is how alien species invasion will affect the, that is diversity or loss, that will cause extinction or the loss of indigenous species. So this Nile perch may be affecting this cichlid fish in one or the other way, or this Nile fish may be very much dominating as compared to the dominating on these cichlid fishes, colorful fishes. So when this Nile perch fish was introduced into the Lake Victoria, where already cichlid fish were living, that will lead to the extinction of more than 200 species of cichlid fish in the lake. That is nothing but the alien species invasion. This is one example. Then another example you can take is about the, that is the carrot grass. Carrot grass, that is invasive species, weed species like carrot grass, your parthenium, you can call it as congress also you call. Nowadays you see very less the congress, here carrot grass, the diagram they have shown here, congress. Local language they call it as congress, but it is generally called as carrot grass, scientifically is parthenium. Okay, and lantana, here this is the diagram where you see in the roadside, that is lantana camera, you can see this diagram. Then water hyacinth, this is eichhornia, which is found in the polluted water or the polluted river, you might have seen. Okay, right. So this carrot grass, lantana and water hyacinth caused damage to our native species because they are all introduced from the other countries. Okay, so this you can see, this is the example where these invasive weed species which when introduced into the our country or on our land, it caused the extinction of other native species. Then here another example is about the illegal introduction of African catfish. This is an African catfish, you can see. Okay, so when you introduce the African catfish, that is Clarius garipinus for aquaculture. Aquaculture means culturing the fishes in the pond. Okay, so earlier in that fish in the pond, Indian catfishes were there. These are the diagram for the catfish in the pond. For aquaculture they were using Indian catfishes, but when you introduce this African catfish, that is Clarius garipinus for aquaculture, this African catfish will cause a threat to the indigenous catfishes in our rivers especially. Okay, that is introduction of African catfish for aquaculture purpose. For using it, that will cause a threat to the indigenous catfishes in our river, because it may be dominating or it may be that is causing a threat to this Indian catfish. So this is how, that is introduction of an alien species, a foreign species from outside. Okay, when it is introduced that is in our native, that will cause the that is loss in diversity of a particular species. Okay, so three examples that is they have given. One example is of Nile perch fish, which was introduced into the lake, Victoria Lake, and that caused the extinction of 200 different species of cichlid fish. Then second one was about the carrot grass, lantana and water hyacinth, that caused threat to our native weed species. Then third one was introduction of African catfish, which caused threat to indigenous catfishes. Okay, then the fourth reason for the loss of biodiversity is about the co-extinction. So here co-extinction is nothing but, co means together, extinct means if one becomes extinct, the one which is related to it also will become extinct. Okay, so when one species, here they have given where that is when a species becomes extinct, the species which is associated with it also will become extinct. Okay, so because the both are very much related to one another. For example, you can take the example of when a host, okay, that is when that is extinction when a host is extinct, the parasite will also become extinct, because always the parasite is going to depend upon host for its food. If the host is no longer, then the parasite also cannot exist. That is nothing but the co-extinction. Or you can take the example of when host fish species become extinct, its unique parasites will also become extinct. Okay, then we can also take the example of plant pollinator mutualism. Okay, so if there are no flowers, if there are no bees, there is no pollination, no flowers. Okay, so here in plant pollinator mutualism, extinction of one causes the extinction of other. For example, if the bees become extinct, the flowers will also become extinct, because without bees or without the insects, there is no pollination. So if the flowers are not there, the bees will become extinct, because from the flowers only the bees are or the insects will derive nutrition or their food. So they are, that is, they are dependent on one another, they are related to one another, that is coextension. That is, if one becomes extinct, the other will also become extinct. Okay, so these are all the four, that is, quadrants of biodiversity, that is biodiversity loss. That is, first one was regarding the habitat loss and fragmentation. Then the second one was about the overexploitation. The third one is alien species invasion, and the fourth one is regarding the co-extinction. So these are the four reasons or four causes for the loss of biodiversity. Then next concept is biodiversity conservation. Okay, so here biodiversity conservation, the question arises, why should we conserve biodiversity then? What is the need? So the reasons for conservation of biodiversity can be mainly categorized into three parts, or there are three reasons for the conservation of biodiversity. The first one is narrow utilitarian arguments, then second one is broad utilitarian arguments, and third one is ethical arguments. Okay, we will see them one by one. Okay, so here the first one is that is the reasons for biodiversity conservation, that is narrow utilitarian arguments. So usually you know that here there are many of the services which are provided by biodiversity for human beings. Okay, in order to derive economic benefits. Like here human beings are going to derive countless direct economic benefits from nature, like it may be in the form of food, that is cereal, pulses, fruits, or it may be in the form of firewood, it may be in the form of fiber, it may be for construction purpose, industrial products like your tannins, lubricants, dyes, resins, perfumes, and many of the products which are medicinally important. So these are all the economic benefits what human beings derive from nature. And then more than 25% of the drugs which are currently sold in the market worldwide, they are all derived from plants. And here that is 25,000 of species of plants contribute to the traditional medicines which are used by our native peoples around the world. Okay, that is, some peoples may be, there are certain Ayurvedic pandits who are going to use the more than 25,000 species of plants, okay, for the traditional medicines. Okay, right. Then here the diagram, the various medicinal plant diagram they have shown in this slide. Okay, then you can also say that there are many more such medicinal plants that are still available in the tropical rainforest waited to be explored. Remember, not only 25,000 plant species, that is, they are helping in traditional medicine, but more than this are also available which are still to be explored, or we have to still find it out. Okay, so here with increasing resources put into bioprospecting, okay, so you can say nations endowed with rich biodiversity can expect reap enormous benefits. So that is, the nations which have got rich biodiversity can expect more benefits out of it. Okay, this comes under the narrow utilitarian arguments. Okay, the next one is about the broad utilitarian arguments. So you can say, according to this broad utilitarian argument, they say that the biodiversity is going to play a major role in many of the ecosystem services. Okay, so here according to this, they say biodiversity is going to play a major role, especially in providing ecosystem services free of cost. Remember, okay, you are not going to pay anything for this. For example, here oxygen. Okay, broad utilitarian means broadly you are going to think how useful your biodiversity is, so that you can conserve it. So first thing is about the oxygen, which is a respiratory gas which is needed by all the living organism. Okay, and it is a great service which is provided by biodiversity. You are not going to have any oxygen factory nowadays. You might have seen in nature you are going to breathe oxygen which is free of cost. It is all because of the biodiversity which contains n number of plants, and these plants are these plants are providing lots of oxygen. Okay, so here oxygen. Then next one is your Amazon forest. Your Amazon forest will provide 20% of the total oxygen in the earth atmosphere through photosynthesis, which is carried out by the plants. The next benefit is regarding the pollination. Pollination is carried out through bees, bumblebees, birds, bats. Okay, right? And remember and imagine, just imagine, if there is no pollination, there would be no fruits, no seeds. So this pollination process mainly occurs through this bees, bumblebees and bats, and which are easily available in your forest. Then next one is about the biodiversity has got great aesthetic value. Okay, which human beings can enjoy the beauty of nature. Okay, beauty of nature you can enjoy, which for which you are not going to that nature is not going to cost anything from you in return. Okay, so this is all about the why you should conserve biodiversity from the broad view. That is first one, it will provide you many ecosystem services like oxygen which is free of cost, Amazons which will provide you 20% of the total oxygen, then your pollination, okay, which is carried out by your birds, okay, as well as it will give you aesthetic pleasures. The next one is biodiversity. For conservation of biodiversity, that is the third reason, is aesthetical arguments. Okay, so here you can say that is philosophically or spiritually every species has got its own importance. Okay, even though it may be of no economical use, but still every species has its intrinsic value. Okay, we have a moral duty to take care of their well-being and pass on the biological wealth to our next generation. Okay, right. If you don't think in this way, you cannot pass on your biological wealth to your next generation. If this happens, so your next generation will see these biodiversity only in the pictures then. For that sake, we have to conserve our biodiversity. So these are all the three reasons why should we conserve biodiversity. Then next part is how to conserve biodiversity. Then how do we conserve biodiversity? No doubt, why should we conserve? There were three reasons: narrow, broad utilitarian and ethical arguments. But how do we conserve biodiversity then? So here, that is your biodiversity can be conserved in two ways, or conservation of biodiversity can be done by two methods, namely in situ conservation and ex situ conservation. Okay, so here in situ conservation, or you can also call it as on-site conservation. Then ex situ conservation is called as off-site conservation. Okay, so we will see them one by one. First one is in situ conservation. So in situ conservation, what do we do exactly? What do we do then? First one is regarding that is the definition of this in situ conservation or on-site conservation. So when we conserve and protect the whole ecosystem, its biodiversity at all the levels, or you can say it is the conservation of species in their natural habitat by protecting the total ecosystem. is called as in situ conservation. Okay, or you can say, according to your slide, conservation of genetic resources within natural or human-made ecosystem in which they occur is called as in situ conservation. Okay, so here in situ conservation means it is a conservation of species in their natural habitats by protecting the total ecosystem. Then you may ask me the question, how to do this in situ conservation then? So this in situ conservation can be done by following methods. So we'll see them some methods one by one. The first one is the species protection. Second one is assemblage protection. Then third one is habitat protection. And how to do this habitat protection? By that is hotspot, national parks, sanctuaries, reserves, biosphere reserves, sacred groves, etc. So this we will see everything in detail. So this, and then as the slide shows, that is India has 14 biosphere reserves, 90 national parks, 488 wildlife sanctuaries. Okay, these are all coming under in situ conservation, where you are going to conserve your animals within their natural ecosystem. So here in situ conservation, in that here before telling about the national parks, let me tell you regarding how to do this in situ conservation by species protection. Okay, so here you can say, I will come to that point later, but here in this slide they have given about the national parks. So in situ conservation by, that is having the national parks. Here national parks are nothing but these are the protected natural habitat covering thousands of acres, and here you can say strictly reserved for welfare of the wildlife, where private ownership or cultivation or grazing is prohibited. No human activities are allowed here in national parks. They will be covering thousands of acres of land where only animals are let free. Okay, for example, here, or you can say India has got 90 national parks. For example, Eraviculam National Park in Kerala. Okay, so Munnar, they have shown you the diagram, Eraviculam, where the elephants are grazing the grass. Then next one is about the sanctuaries, which come under your in situ conservation only. Periyar Wildlife Sanctuary they have shown you. Here the protection is given only to the animals. Okay, so these are the protected natural habitats smaller than national parks. Okay, these are smaller, national parks are large. Smaller to the national parks are your sanctuaries. Okay, the collection of timbers, minor forest production and private ownership are allowed so long as they do not harm the animals. That is the main, that is the aim of this sanctuary, is to protect the animals. Okay, then example, that is Periyar Wildlife Sanctuary in Kerala, and as already told you, India has got 448 wildlife sanctuaries spread across the country. Okay, the next is about the biosphere reserves. So they are protected natural habitats smaller than your sanctuaries. Okay, the areas of land or coastal ecosystem for conservation and sustainable use. For example, here bioreservoirs, the diagram they have given, in the diagram, that is in India, where with the red dot they have indicated where are your biosphere reservoirs like Sundarban, Nilgiri, Gulf of Mannar, etc. So Nilgiri biosphere reserves they have given, and the examples for this biosphere reserves: Manas tiger reserves of Assam, Manas tiger reserves of Assam, Periyar tiger reserve of Kerala, Ansi tiger reserves of Karnataka. So these are the few examples of tiger reserves. Okay, and these are the biodiversity conservation spots, which are smaller than the sanctuaries. Then, and this these are, remember, these biosphere reserves are large, undisturbed, protected areas. Okay, and this, these are not smaller than, I told you these are smaller than century, sorry for that. So biodiversity, so this biosphere reserves, this biospheres are the large areas which may consist one or two national parks, sanctuaries and reserves also. Okay, and in India I have got 40 biosphere reserves. Okay, so sorry for that is, I was last in whatever I told you about was the reserves. The reserves are smaller than the sanctuaries. Biosphere reserves are large areas which will contain national parks also, sanctuaries also, and that is reserves also. Okay, then a sacred groves or sacred forest you can say. Okay, so here these are nothing but these are the that is traditionally, religiously or culturally protected patches of forest. That is, this forest patch has got sentimental connection, you can see. They are treated as god. Okay, so these are, as I said, these forest fragments which are communally protected based on religious beliefs. They think that God is going to exist over here. Okay, so only say they are traditionally, religiously or culturally protected patches of forest where trees and wildlife are given total protection. For example, that is sacred groves of Kashi and Jantilia hills of Meghalaya, then Aravali hills of Rajasthan, Western Ghats, regions of Karnataka and Maharashtra, then Sarguja, Chanda and Bastar areas of Madhya Pradesh. So these are all the sacred gurus, these are the few sacred gurus which are spread in India. Okay, so and by this way they are going to protect the biodiversity. Then before going to the your what say ex situ conservation, I want to say that is your in situ conservation. Before going to this ex situ conservation, I want to tell you few points regarding the in situ conservation. That is, in situ conservation, as I already told you, it is nothing but the conservation of species in their natural habitat, and this can be done by either protecting the single species or the assemblage protection or the habitat protection. The first one is about the that is species protection. So species protection, how you can protect the single species then? It is species protection is done by protecting single species of plant or animal which is on the edge of getting extinct. For example, your great Indian rhinoceros. Okay, that is Rhinoceros unicornis, which is protected in Kaziranga Sanctuary in Assam, whereas Indian lion, which is called as Pantheria leo, which is protected in Gir National Park of Gujarat. So this is one attempt to protect the individual species which is getting extinct. Like that, we can also go for assemblage protection. So assemblage protection, in this method, you are going to protect group of species. For example, Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary of Rajasthan, Rangantittu Bird Sanctuary of Karnataka. So these are the areas which are going to protect a group of species. Then going for habitat protection. In this method, you are going to identify and protect large areas with the entire ecosystem, and that will include your hotspots, national parks, sanctuaries, biosphere reserves, sacred groves, etc. Okay, that is whatever you saw about this national parks, sanctuaries, those are all coming under habitat protection. Then your hotspots. Hotspots means what? So that we will study in the next slide. Before that, we will see about your ex situ conservation. Then what do you mean by ex situ conservation? So ex situ conservation is nothing but it is the conservation of organisms outside their habitats. It is the conservation of organisms outside their habitats. So here you can see that in this method, threatened or endangered animals and plants are taken out of their natural habitat and they are placed in special setting where they are protected and given special care. Okay, if that is suppose a plant or animals is getting threatened there or endangered there, they will take it out from there and keep it in a safe place where it is taken care of. It includes where that is in situ conservation. What are the areas coming under this? That is, it includes botanical gardens, zoological parks, seed banks, tissue culture labs or cryo preservations. Okay, so here you can see it is a conservation, as I already told you, it is a conservation of organisms outside their habitats. You can keep them in the botanical gardens or zoos or parks, that is zoological parks or the seed banks, etc. So here you can see in the parks where they are protected. Okay, right, that is example genetic resource centers, zoological parks, wildlife safari parks, etc. Then here that is example genetic resource centers, as I already told, these are the areas which come under ex situ conservation, that is wildlife safari parks, botanical garden, gene banks, cryopreservation, etc. Then before moving on to the hotspots, we will see what do you mean by, before going to this hotspots, we will see about what do you mean by botanical gardens. So botanical garden, that is, it is a place where ex situ conservation of plants takes place. It is the place where plant species are conserved when they start to become extinct in wildlife. Okay, then zoological gardens. Zoological garden or a zoo, it is a place where wild animals are conserved in captivity. Then third one is about the seed banks. Seed bank, it is a place of conservation of germplasm. Here the seeds of many endangered species of plants is preserved for a long period of time in dormant condition. Then tissue culture. In tissue culture, what do they do is germplasm is maintained through callus formation, shoot tip culture, etc. Then cryopreservation. It is also a method which is coming under ex situ conservation, cryopreservation. So cryopreservation is nothing but it is a place where cells or your tissues or your gametes of the threatened species of that can be preserved in viable and fertile condition for a long period of time in liquid nitrogen at 196 degrees Celsius. That is cryopreservation. Your seeds are kept in liquid nitrogen, okay, under minus 196 degrees Celsius in a viable condition. That method of preserving is called as a cryopreservation. Okay, then coming to next is your hotspots. What I forgot, that is what I had told you in the previous slides, that is I will tell you hotspot in the next. So hotspots are nothing but these are the identified protected areas with high levels of species richness. High level of species richness and high degree of endemism. So the slide says these are the regions with very high species richness, high degree of endemism. Endemism means it is the area it is the only area where you can find a particular species. Okay, and then but most of them threatened. And then in India, we can find totally there are 34 hotspots which are found in the world. What I am talking, total number of biodiversity hotspots in the world are 34, and then in India there are 3 hotspots which are found in the India's biodiversity region, like Western Ghats, then Sri Lanka, Indo-Burma and Himalaya. You can see Western Ghats, Indo-Burma region and Himalaya region. Okay, instead of saying Sri Lanka, you can say Indo-Burma region and Himalaya region. Okay, then your hotspots, that they have given Western Ghats here. These are the region with high species richness, and there are 34 spots that is three hot spots are found in India, among which one is Western Ghats. The diagram of Western Ghats they have given. Here you can say Indo-Burma hot spot. Okay, the diagram only you go on see. The next is about the Himalaya region. Okay, right? Then your hot spot region, that is cover not less than 2% of the earth land area, but the species extension is that is less than 2% of the land area, but the species richness is extremely high. Then the protection of hotspot reduce the ongoing extinction by 30%. When you take care of this hotspot, you can reduce the percentage of getting extinct. Then biodiversity conservation. So this biodiversity conservation, it is one of the, that is conservation of biodiversity is one of the global issue, and its conservation is responsibility of all the nations, not only India. So here, that is international efforts for conserving biodiversity, you can see. So that is, there was a convention which was that is convention on biological biodiversity, that is the Earth Summit, which was held at Rio de Janeiro in the year 1992, which had called all the nations to take proper measures for conservation of biodiversity. So here the objectives of Earth Summit were the conservation of biodiversity, sustainable means appropriate use of biodiversity, then, or you can say effective use, okay, and then sharing of benefits arising from the genetic resources. So these were the few objectives of the Earth Summit, which was conducted in Rio de Janeiro in the year 1992, where all the nations were invited and they were asked to take proper care for the conservation of biodiversity. So this was in a follow-up to this Earth Summit. After the Earth Summit, the World Summit was held. It is a World Summit was held in Johannesburg 2002 in South Africa, where 190 countries pledged to conserve biodiversity. So the World Summit on Sustainable Development was held in 2002 in Johannesburg, South Africa, where 190 countries pledged to reduce the current rate of biodiversity loss, and thereby they can conserve their earth. Okay, so this is all about the chapter biodiversity and its conservation, and this ends up the chapter. And if you have any doubts, you can ask me personally by messaging. Thank you.